I've said all the kind of rude and insulting things to you first, you see. So then I start recording. So, that way I'll be okay. Okay, so fine. No, don't worry. I'll still say rude and insulting things. It'll be fine. So how I got started making hero on a mission film. So 2004, when most of you probably weren't even born, but I was alive then, and I did a bit of face-to-face CPR training. So it's the sort of thing you see in this picture. And it's all sort of very nice and polite, a little bit boring, a little bit ridiculous. But I got talking to the ambulance guy who was taking the course, and he pointed out that this form of training has a number of gigantic weaknesses. So it's expensive because you need a trained person and a room and all that sort of thing. It's very polite, and it's completely unrealistic emotionally. So you do this funny little course. It's a bit of a giggle. It's all very nice. And then 3 weeks later, there's your mum on the ground having a cardiac arrest, covered in vomit, and your sister is screaming at you not to do anything because you're not a doctor, you don't know what you're doing. And that experience bears no relationship whatsoever to the training that you've had. And as a result, people freeze. It's called the trained bystander problem, and it's a huge problem in emergency skills training, basically because the training sucks. So it's also boring and forgettable. So I don't know when you did your courses, but if it was more than 6 months ago, it's likely that the course that you did will be useless, because it just kind of goes out of people's minds. It's inconvenient. It takes hours to kind of get yourself to one of these courses and get back, if you can even find one. So that was 2004, and I thought, okay, well, what if we do something with film, to use the power of film, but we add interactivity to it to make it more intellectually challenging? Wouldn't that be a great idea? And wouldn't lots of people love to do that? Wouldn't they love to fund something like that? So, I mean, a film to save people's lives, who is not going to want to fund that, right? So that's 2004. By 2011, I'd managed to get 50% of the money, because basically no one is interested in funding stuff that teaches people how to save lives. So I got a UK government grant, and this grant was just sort of general innovation. There are quite a lot of such general innovation grants, so it's always useful to be kind of aware of them. Government didn't really care what the hell I did with it. It was about just kind of being innovative generally. So I went to don't repeat these names, okay? I wouldn't say them in a normal conference, but since it's just the 5 of us, I'll say them. So first I went to British Red Cross, had some nice meetings, and then they came back with the answer, no. Then I went to St. John's Ambulance. In fact, I never even got a nice meeting. They just said no immediately. So then I went to a tiny charity that you guys have never heard of called the Resuscitation Council UK, and they said yes. And one sort of worrying and depressing thing about that is the reason that they said yes is because they don't have a business that markets CPR courses to members of the public. So there's no threat to their existing business model from this crazy guy claiming that he could do something as good as face-to-face with digital. So anyway, they said yes. And so it's using the power of film, but we're turning viewers into doers. But the fundamental is the sort of thing that all you guys know perfectly well. The emotional power of film and video does amazing things. But in the world of interactive, that power is not widely known about. We turn viewers into doers, so we add an intellectual challenge so that people are having to actually get involved. We're not just showing them a problem that the hero will solve, we're showing them a problem that they will solve because they become the hero. So let's have a look at a choice.
There's no sound right now. Is that
Beg your pardon. Sorry.
is
Uh,
it's
so, so if that happens,
mhm.
please always shout out every time you see a video,
Yeah.
except there is a silent movie at the end, which will not have sound. Okay, let me just reshare. So thank you for that, Jacob. So yeah, like I say, for all these talks, if you can't hear anything, please don't suffer in silence. Just shout out because the sound on Microsoft Teams is a little bit flaky. Okay, here we go. Let's try again. Can you hear now?
Yeah.
Right.
Come on, Jake, open your eyes, come on. Jake, should we call someone? I don't know. Jake. Can you hear me? Come on, open your eyes. You can breathe. Keep doing that with your mouth. Come on, mate, please.
Let's say this is you. You're not a first aid expert. What do you do now?
Okay, so Jacob, what would you do now? Do the health and safety thing, check for danger, and then to help, or just run to him now?
Check for danger.
Or Jack, what would you do?
I'll check for danger.
God, you guys are too good. Okay, most people just say run to him now, and in that case, you get hit by a bicycle. So the goody two shoes guys like you wouldn't fall into this trap, but doctors frequently make this mistake. Doctors quite often just press run to him now. I'm delighted to see that you guys wouldn't do that, though also, of course, a bit disappointed. There is no audio on this video, so this shows what you see if you are doing CPR in Lifesaver. So you move your iPhone up and down 2 times a second, and as you do, you get a score. If you do it right, then the guy in the film lives. If you do it wrong, then the guy in the film dies. So we're using the emotional power of film and video and combining that with the sort of challenge that you get from interactivity. And again, bear in mind with when you're making a film that many times it's going to be used on a phone. If it's being used on a phone, it's completely different as a thing from a TV, let alone a cinema screen. So just remember, you can make it respond to sound, you can make it respond to movement. There's all sorts of things that you can do. Okay, so why wouldn't this work in schools?
You mean this film? Why it wouldn't work
Yeah.
in
So what
schools?
I've just shown you, why would that not work in a school?
Well, if you were to do it in a presentation, like you,
No. So let's say we want to teach kids in schools CPR.
yeah,
What is wrong with this approach?
Doing a
Schools are not,
virtual, doing a virtual thing on your phone.
yeah. Why
Uh,
would that
kids
not work
probably
in
won't.
schools?
Kids probably won't pay. Kids probably wouldn't pay attention to it.
No, that's not true. They definitely pay attention to it. Why wouldn't it work in schools?
I don't.
individual like interactivity in it as well. The fact that
Getting there, schools don't have one device per kid.
yeah, exactly. You miss the
So
individuality of it.
exactly. So I mean, of course, you know, as Jack is no doubt just about to say, obviously every kid has got at least one phone in their pocket, if not two. Um,
Yeah.
but they're not allowed to take the phones out. The
Mm.
phones have to stay in because the last thing that the teacher wants. So, so schools are about one device for 30 kids. One device, one teacher, 30 kids. How can you make something interactive for that? It's impossible, right?
Mm.
Maybe not. So this is Heart Class. This is what we're
Mr.
going to be
Ryan?
playing tomorrow.
Alex, guys, come in here. Mr. Ryan? Mr. Ryan, are you okay? You're gonna break his ribs.
Could Sarah break Mr. Ryan's ribs? Yes or no?
No, no, Sarah, you can't. I have to. No, you can't.
So that's Heart Class. You'll be playing that tomorrow. So as you see, this is about doing something interactive, but it's not one person, one device. It's 30 people, one device, or 300 people, one device. You could do it in a cinema. And collective interaction, I think, is the huge untouched possibility of our time. And yeah, but anyway, you'll get to see a bit more of that. Okay, soft skills. You're thinking, but we're artists. This is all kind of crude, savage sort of CPR, pressing people's chests. We want to know about, artistic things. So soft skills. I've also recently done one which is a suicide prevention film. So here's a quick little look.
Are you thinking about suicide?
What do you get? But you hardly know me, come on.
Buddy, are you thinking about killing yourself?
I think about it all the time.
So anyway, we'll have a little bit. So, okay, so in terms of this education, we've got lifesavers. I've also done VR. Are any of you interested in VR?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, so just hold that thought, Albert, for a week or so. I've done a couple of BAFTA-nominated VR films. I'm happy to talk about those and the difference between VR and regular. Maybe we could make it like an extra little sub thing or something. We can get into that. So yeah, Heart Class, we'll talk about suicide. We've had more than 1 million plays worldwide. And this guy is Adam Kelly. So Adam played Lifesaver one day. A couple of days later, a jogger collapsed in front of him on Victoria Embankment, and he saved the jogger's life purely on the basis of what he'd learned from playing Heart Class. He's never done a traditional CPR course. And there have been a number of other examples like that. So with immersive film, it's exciting and dramatic. It's using what you guys know so well, the power of film, to get people engaged. It's convenient. It's easy to refresh any time. Takes 15 to 20 minutes to learn a skill. It simulates the emotional shock of a crisis, and it forces you to make smart decisions fast. So obviously with coronavirus, the whole face-to-face model is completely disrupted, completely fucked. Immersive film is not disrupted. Face-to-face training cannot scale, could never scale. To teach CPR to 10% of the UK would take about 660,000 face-to-face lessons. Immersive film can scale. We could teach 10% of the UK in a day. So, Jacob, what do you think the fucking Swedish Red Cross has done?
They've completely taken this, bootlegged it.
Exactly. And not done a very good job. But anyway, you're going to take care of
God, I'm really curious. I want to see it.
Well, have a look. Have a look. Just Google it. See if you can find it. So I'll be quite interested to know that.
Do it right now.
Do it later, Jacob, because otherwise, you'll see me bursting into tears, which is not a great look. Okay, so there's one key thing. In this world, if you can't measure it, it doesn't exist. This is another one of these key concepts, which is really important that you get your head around. And the value of me doing these lessons is really in things like this. Now, you might say, but we're script writers, we're artists. What's that got to do with us? Believe me, if you can't measure it, it doesn't exist. And if you can't think of a measure, someone will. Now, the obvious measure is going to be ratings. How many people watched my thing, or how much money it made. Those are the measures. But there are measures like prizes. Prizes are a lottery. Everyone knows that. But they are a measure of quality. So from that point of view, prizes are incredibly important. So okay, so I'm claiming that this is good. This approach is good. You know, clients want numbers to prove the effectiveness of approach. Where are my numbers? So there's been formal medical research in the UK done on Lifesaver that showed that it was 29% more effective than traditional face-to-face training. Now, and of course, Lifesaver will scale. You can teach 1 million people with Lifesaver in a day, which you can't do with face-to-face. Did that make a difference to British Red Cross or St John's Ambulance? What's the answer?
Yeah.
No, it didn't. They still told me to fuck off because the only number they care about is how much money can they make out of doing CPR training.
Mm.
However, did this number make a difference to Swedish Red Cross?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it did, which is why I want to kill them. But they thought they could do it themselves because what the fuck do we need this guy for? There's formal medical research in the USA on heart class, the one you're going to do tomorrow. That's 46% more effective than traditional school teaching. So we'll see. I mean, one thing is that innovations take time to spread, especially in things like medicine, where you have to get it right or people will die. And so a bit of a time lag is not surprising. Okay, so if you want that research, the Lifesaver research is available there, and the Heart Class research is available there. I can send you this presentation if you want it, just ask. Okay, so let's get on to what you care about, which is the methodology for making a film like this. So we are going to look at these stages. Sorry, guys, do you mind just muting yourselves, please? Feel free to unmute yourselves at any stage. It's just, tapping and scratching and so on. Also, Albert, when Albert falls asleep, he starts snoring, I've been told. So we need to watch out for that. We'll look at these stages: concept and common concept problems. Most interactive films fail at the concept stage. We'll look at the script. We'll look at casting, workshopping, and rehearsing. We'll look at direction on the shoot and in post. We'll look at coding and testing. We'll look at launch and research. And again, if you're thinking, I'm a scriptwriter, this is not my problem, just hang on a second. The world is changing fast. I would, we've already, if you've got any interest at all in anything broader than just the script, you definitely need to know this stuff. Even if you just want to know about the script, it's important that you know about the whole process because you're making the blueprint for the whole process. You're making a blueprint for a machine, so you need to know how the whole machine works. Okay, so your concept. So most interactive films fail at the concept stage. I've already said this, but it's still true. 99.99% of stories are not interactive. Overwhelmingly, stories are a thing told by a storyteller to a bunch of story listeners. The storyteller may personalize the story to the listener, but the storyteller doesn't ask the listener, what Cinderella does next. The storyteller tells the audience what Cinderella does next. However, real life is always interactive. So for my stuff, my prime inspiration is real life. And when you're pitching an idea for an interactive film, or I would suggest for a game, don't talk about it like a story. It's not a story, it's something you do. Yeah. So when we go through this course, we've got this thing like in the morning, we look at an example, in the afternoon, you pitch an idea. Don't pitch it. The way to fail, right from the word go, is to pitch it as, I've got, this is a story about yada, 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 yada. Forgive me, I don't want to hear that. What I want to hear is, because the problem is it just puts you in completely the wrong mindset for doing a good interactive story. What I would like to hear instead is, this is where you ... So Lifesaver is not a story about someone having a heart attack where you can change the ending. Lifesaver is where you save the life of someone who's had a heart attack. So you see, as soon as you say it that way, immediately the idea that you are doing things to make that happen, to get to the ending that you want, it immediately falls into place, because it's not a story, it's a thing where you are doing something. Yeah. So try and pitch these ideas. It's where you do something. Yeah. So don't think of your interactive film as a story. Think of it as a model of real life. The interaction should let the user do what they would do in real life. And so in the case of something like Lifesaver, all the interactions are built on the medical instructions for what you have to do to save someone's life if they're dying of a cardiac arrest. Again, your interactive film is not a story, it's something the viewer does. So, what could possibly go wrong? Okay, you're thinking that sounds simple. Well, here are 4 common problems. One is it looks easier. It looks easy. So this leads to failures, and those involved blame the medium. So let's say, and this has happened many, many times, let's say some client said, hey, I want to make, I've got this great idea. I don't just want the viewers to sit there passively. I want them to do something. And you are the guys to make this for me. And so they give £1 million, £2 million to a production company. The production company go away and make an interactive film, and they completely fuck it up, which happens a lot. What are they going to blame? Are they going to blame themselves, or are they going to blame the medium? Of course they blame the medium. It's not us. Interactive films suck. Everyone knows interactive film is garbage. It's not our fault that this thing sucks. The problem is interactive film. Okay, let's move on. A little bit more tricky. So, the puppet master problem. So this is where adding interactivity destroys character. Now, we talked a little bit about this morning. So in a regular film, a character needs to be a willful individual. I mean, okay, I know I'm generalizing, but a hero almost always is a willful individual. And the hero, depending on the genre, the hero wants to achieve a particular thing or avoid a particular thing. And the film is the story of the hero overcoming barriers to achieve that thing, or failing to overcome barriers to achieve that thing, whatever it might be. So if the hero needs to be a willful individual, and if you can then choose what they do, who cares what happens to them? So, as I was saying before, it depends a lot on genre. So let's say we have a love story, and you've got your hero person, your hero guy, and the hero is gay, and you've got to choose whether the hero chases after boy A or boy B. So immediately, you don't care about what happens to the hero, because because the choice about who do you love is a deeply personal choice rooted in that character's personality. If you can choose that thing for them, you don't really care about them. They become a puppet. So you're not really engaged. You don't really care whether they live or die. And this is a problem which also affects games to some extent, but it definitely affects interactive films. Okay, so what is the solution? What do you think? How can we solve this problem? How can we have a character who can be controlled to some extent, but we still have a feeling that their character has got integrity, that they are a real character, they are a willful individual? How can we do that?
I don't know if there's a Maybe there is like a straight answer to it, but I think it's all in the presentation of character, perhaps.
A bit more fundamental than that. I mean, yes, of course,
Yeah.
of course you're right. Presentation of character is important, but there is a fundamental thing that you can do. So it's a simple solution. Show what the hero wants at the start before any interaction. So that way, in your film, the user is just trying to get that hero what they want. The hero is not choosing the hero's, this should beg your pardon, the user is not choosing the hero's desires. So the hero remains strong. So in the case of the love film, you just have an intro bit where the hero comes along and, oh my God, he sees this other guy and his heart melts. He can't believe how hot and cute and adorable this other guy is. He's in love with that other guy. You establish that at the beginning. That's your premise. Then you can start getting into all sorts of funny sitcom things about the hero needs to work out how to get with the object of his desire. And that's okay because you're not breaking the character. You're not choosing at the fundamental level what the character wants. You're just helping the character get them what they want. Now, that is why life-saving stories are great for interactive films and for games, because any reasonable person would want to save the victim. You're just fighting to help the hero do it. So, you saw the beginning of Lifesaver there. You have someone, this nice young man has sort of collapsed. Something's obviously really, really sick. You don't really know what. And then along comes the knight in shining armor, who's just a normal woman walking through an underpass. And she wants to help. And you don't need to know her life story. Did she have some deep trauma as a child or whatever to understand why she wants to help? Of course she wants to help. Who wouldn't? What reasonable person wouldn't? So that's why life-saving stories are a great genre, and lots of survival type stories. This then also starts extending through to lots of classic game genres. So shoot 'em ups, beat 'em ups, it's a fight, it's a war, you're a soldier, you're a professional fighter. So you just got to do your fighting. You don't need to know the deep inner sort of conflicts of the character, because it's just inherent in those genres that the person is just going to do what they got to do. So that's why genres like that are great for interactive films and also great for games. Whereas genres like love tend to be sort of naturally the domain of linear stories. But I look forward to you overturning that and, Albert, on the basis of your, love of Japanese sort of manga anime love games, coming up with something. Albert, just on that point, so forgive me, the game that you were talking about before, that sort of phone game, is that like one of these Japanese like romantic ones, or it's not like that?
No, it's just people trying to save the world.
It probably is romantic. He's just embarrassed.
So,
Okay, but there is, right? There, like,
Yeah.
Japan, there's a big genre of sort of like boyfriend chasing games and girlfriend chasing games, and some of them are pretty disgusting. But certainly the ones targeted at girls are interesting because they tend to be very sort of cute and about sort of charming the boy and this sort of thing. But Japanese culture is different in many glorious ways. There's not much, as far as I'm aware, in sort of Western traditions of kind of love-related stuff. So whereas action, life-saving action, or sort of fighting action, obviously there's a mass of it. So choose your genre. If you're thinking of an idea for an interactive film, be careful about the genre, and especially be careful of something like sitcoms, because people are constantly saying, oh, let's make Friends interactive. That would be so hard because Friends is so much about character, and as soon as you could just about imagine, um, helping the hero get what they want. Fine, but it's just sort of fundamentally tricky because of the whole character question. Okay, the unmotivated choice problem. So this is where you present choices that the user doesn't care about. So, for example, the classic sort of, terrible interactive choice is you're running along. Do you turn left or turn right? I don't know. I don't care. It's your film. You tell me. So, I once did a sitcom, in fact, for Google. Don't tell anyone that, please. Google's obviously gigantic. It was like some little bit. But anyway, they wanted to get into VR, and they had the very interesting idea of an interactive VR film for 2 players. That was where each player would have control over the game, or over the film to some extent, and both players would see the cumulative result of everyone's choices. So the simplest example of this was, at the end, you have the boy and the girl. Do they kiss? So you've got one player in a VR headset is playing the girl, and they have to choose, do they kiss the boy, yes or no? The other player is playing the boy. They have to choose, do they kiss the girl, yes or no? So we had to shoot 4 endings. Yes, yes, no, 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 yes, and yes, no. So, which of those 4 options do you think got used most, Jocelyn? You got the end of your romantic comedy. What's going to happen? Are people going to, is the boy going to try and get off with the girl? Is the girl going to try and get with the boy? Is the boy trying to get off with each other? Or both are not interested? Just show me your level of understanding of human nature.
I think they both got together.
Jocelyn, there goes your 10% bonus for the LinkedIn thing. No, I'm sorry. I'm afraid human nature is that it was almost always no. People were so, as in real life, people are terrified of rejection, right? They're terrified, even if it's completely made up, even if it's just a story, they didn't have the guts to choose to get off with the other person because they were worried that the other person might not want them. Yes. However, on the other hand, Jocelyn, that probably shows that you have a fantastically proactive, get off with people type attitude, which is wonderful.
Too proactive.
Very proactive, exactly, which I'm delighted to hear. So that's great. However, I'm afraid most people are not as proactive as you. But anyway, these people, they wanted to have a turn left, turn right choice. So what I did was, and it was there were 2 cars following each other. So what we did was, we made that the boy is like in a love triangle, and the girl is in the car ahead of him. The girl's car turns right. He's stuck in a car with another girl. That girl tells him to turn left. He drives up to the junction. What does he do? Turn left or turn right? So you see, what we've done is we've motivated that choice. We've turned it from being turn left or turn right into a choice about which girl is this guy really interested in. Yeah? So it's a crude example, but you see the idea. So try to only present, the solution to unmotivated choices is try to only prevent urgent choices with a clear motivation. So again, that's why a life-saving story works. So the choices are to save for life. If you get them wrong, the victim will die. But there's plenty of other choices that are motivated. But it's one of the main failings of the choose your own adventure genre is choose your own adventure books are filled with unmotivated choices. And as I said this morning, Bandersnatch also has many, many unmotivated choices. The notorious one is which breakfast cereal the hero should eat. You're given a choice between Sugar Puffs and Frosties, I think it is. You don't know, you don't care, it's just a random thing, and it doesn't really pay off. I mean, it changes one shot later off, but it's a classic, crappy, choose your own adventure style choice. So let's try and avoid those. Okay, you're saying, but does interaction actually make things better dramatically? Well, the answer is yes. So this is a heart rate monitor. This is done by a doctor who loved Lifesaver, and he tested Lifesaver. I gave him a version without any interactivity in it, and this is the heart rate of someone playing it. As you can see, they're not particularly interested because it's just a story about someone having a heart attack. It doesn't matter what they do. You know, the person lives or dies, whatever. It's not their problem. Then on the right-hand side, you can see Lifesaver with interaction. And here you see much, much stronger emotional reaction, much stronger heartbeat, because the interaction means that it is your problem. It's over to you. You've got to solve this. If you don't fix it, the guy will die. If you do fix it, the guy will live. So there you see the difference that the emotional engagement makes. Okay, so, but that's because the choices are all motivated. You know, every choice has a meaning, has an emotional weight to it. Okay, so our third big problem has a number of names. The scene-to-one ratio problem, also known as the combinatorial explosion, also known as the inverted data pyramid of death, or IDPOD. So this is where you create a sort of branching tree film requiring far more use than anyone will ever see, for example, with multiple endings. So this is Bandersnatch. This is a sitemap of Bandersnatch. And as you can see, oh my God, what a fucking mess. It's all over the place. There's so many choices and they lead to multiple endings. And the really annoying thing is that most of the endings are incompatible with each other. How many of you have played Bandersnatch, seen Bandersnatch?
I have.
So only Jocelyn? Because Jocelyn,
Heard of it.
huh?
Heard of it, never seen it.
Okay, so
it.
Jocelyn, again, Ms. Proactive, is, you guys are really going to have to struggle to catch up with Jocelyn, I can tell. Anyway, Jocelyn has played it. We will play it later. It's a brilliant piece of work. It's deliberately crap. It's deliberately a model of these crappy 80s choose your own adventure stories. And one of the most annoying things about it, which of course is also one of the most ironic things about it, is that the endings are all incompatible. So one ending, you discover that the hero's entire life is a sham. He's like the subject of some weird psychological experiment. In another ending, you go back in time and you change the hero's decision that he made before a huge childhood trauma. So there's no compatibility whatsoever between those two endings. They just exist in completely different story universes. So Jack, it's as if, you started getting into Star Wars universe and you decided that, and you found out if you went one way that Darth Vader was Luke's father, and then if you read a different book or made a different choice, you found out that in fact
killed Luke's dad or something.
Precisely. How would you feel about that?
I feel used by Obi-Wan.
Fine, precisely. You'd feel used, you'd feel lied to, and that's what generally people feel. They choose their own adventure stories. It just, why are you doing these different? Because you can have a story with different endings, provided it's in the same story universe. So that by exploring, you discover more about that story. That story more about that story universe. But of course, it's all ironic. There's about 5 hours of footage in Bandersnatch, but the average user session is under an hour. So the average user, coming back to these terms, the seen to unseen ratio problem. So that means the ratio between the amount that any user sees to what goes unseen is ridiculous. There's like 5 times more footage that they don't see than what they see. Combinatorial explosion, that's a more games term, which is a sort of, obviously with games they're not shooting footage, but they also have to think very carefully about how much of a world do they open. And if you make a choice, does this open like a huge new realm that you have to deliver? Inverted data pyramid of death, that's if you have a branching tree structure and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger because you put these fundamental choices at the beginning. And so the amount of data you've got is like an upside down pyramid. Okay, so how do you fix that? Jacob.
Sorry. Honestly, I don't know. I think maybe it's just about going back to that same thing you said before, that every choice has to have meaning. It needs to have some sort of meaning or emotional weight to it.
Good answer, but completely wrong. what anyone else? I mean, but that's a very smart answer, Jacob. Bravo. Well played, sir. Jocelyn, how do you fix this problem?
I have no idea.
Okay, that's another good answer. Okay, so there's a number of different approaches, but the approach I'd like to talk about now is what I call the fight to get to the ending model. So something like Lifesaver has a sitemap like this. This is not actually a sitemap of Lifesaver. Sitemap would have more bits. This has only got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 choices. Lifesaver has got 20, 25 choices. Heart Class, which you'll play tomorrow, has got 30 choices or something, I think. So it's a similar principle. So there is only one ending, but you have to fight to get there. So you must think and make choices all the way through. But there are fail loops. So you can fail, you can die. You must be able to fail. You must be able to die, because lots of people try and game what you do. And if you can't fail, if you can't die, then they'll lose interest and they'll tell everyone else on the internet. There are fail loops on the way where the victim dies, but failure is only a mild setback. So with these type games, Jacob, have you played many like Japanese RPGs like Final Fantasy, for example?
No, I haven't. That was never really.
It was never one of your things.
Nah.
Okay. So, but you must be aware of games where, there's like a big boss battle, and if you fail, there's like a serious time penalty. If you can't crack a particular challenge, then you'll get shunted back like an hour, and you've got to play the whole fucking thing again to get back to that boss battle. Are you?
Exactly.
Yeah. Can you suggest a game? I mean, the one that I know like that is Final Fantasy, but is there one that you've encountered like that?
Yeah, Bloodborne, it's called, which is ridiculously difficult. Where also the so-called like the fail loops, we talk point system, where if you die, you get sent back like ridiculously back far.
All right, fine. So with these things, these are all casual. A Lifesaver, like I said before, the film, each film is about 12, 15 minutes. So it's a lot closer in terms of user experience to the sort of casual phone games that Albert likes to play, but not as pornographic. Sorry, Albert. But you know what I mean? They're kind of casual. They're not asking you to devote days of your life in the way that a AAA game is is asking, they're quite casual, and so the penalty is not that much. You have to go back a couple of choices. It's not a big deal, and then you come back again. So failure is only a mild setback, and then very important is at the end you get a score and congratulations, because people are vain and they love to be congratulated on what a fantastic job they've done. But with this type of structure, you usually only need about 20% more footage than any one user will ever see. So it's much, much cheaper to make. It's much more economical than a sort of classic choose your own adventure type thing. Okay, it often starts with a magic call. I got one such call from Grassroots Suicide Prevention. They saw Lifesaver, wanted something equally effective. So, of course, those are the calls we're all waiting for. You've got someone who's got some funding and they want to make a fantastic project. That is what it's all about. So, you've got your idea. How do you write your shooting script? So I'll just give you an idea of how much further we've got. Still got a bit of a way. Do you guys want like a 5-minute break? We'll come back at 4:30? Or we just keep plowing on?
I'm fine plowing on.
Okay,
I don't
fine.
know about you.
All right, fine. You guys feel no pain. Love it. All right. So how do you write your script? So you might hate this. This is not essential by any means, but what I do with a lot of these things is I script with bullet points. Then the dialogue sounds real because it's the actor's own. So I know this is where you think, oh my God, what is this fucking idiot doing? But so here is the script for Real Talk About Suicide. We've got bullet points. We've got basic ideas. Is he thinking about suicide? No, don't say committing suicide is not a crime. Silence. What if I am? Why would you care? You hardly know me. Then we've got a choice. Da 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 da. Is he thinking of criminal? Da 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 da. So you see, I've deliberately phrased it in an indirect. I haven't written, buddy, are you thinking about suicide? I've said, is he thinking about suicide? And then it's about finding the right actors, finding actors who like to improvise and who like to kind of create their characters. And that way, that's how I get scarily lifelike performances. So just to just show you an actual script. Okay, so I can share this link if anyone wants to see it, just let me know. But this is the initial shooting script that we used for Real Talk About Suicide. So it's all about bullet points. It's all about indicating indirectly what happens in a lot of precision, and the choices are all done precisely, but the actual word for word stuff is not there, because what we want to do is we want the actors to use their own words to come up with these things. Now you might say, but that is spitting in the face of the scriptwriter. That's your choice. I mean, of course, you can choose to come up with a, of course you can, as you know, you can script it all word for word. But I would just, especially if you're interested more in creating the overall film, just bear that in mind as a tool, because actors are great, and actors are amazing at creating characters. So for actors, and I think this is a really important thing to understand about actors. For actors, interactive creates a new magic if. So the classic magic if of method acting is, if I was that person, what would I do in this situation? But we're giving them a new magic if, which is, if this character does X rather than Y, then what? So some actors love this, and So when you're thinking about making an interactive film, just try and play with that idea, because one of the key things is getting actors to be involved. And actors love to be able to show off. Actors love to be able to make people go, "Oh fuck, that's amazing! Look, she could do that, and then she could do that." And so, if you come up with the right interactive idea, you can give an actor this fantastic sort of opportunity to show what they can do. That they can be that character in the good times and in the bad times. The classic one is, one classic example is, the award ceremony, where you've got some people sitting at a table and then something comes up on a screen. The name, you see the nominees, and then drum roll, who won? And then without the characters doing anything, a potentially life-changing event will happen when something flashes up on that screen. So you could write something for an actor where you're going to show that fork. You're going to show what that character does if they win and what that character does if they lose. And there you see, you've given an actor a lovely little piece, a lovely little way to show off what they are and what they can do. Okay, so I can show you casting videos, but I think let's just push on. So what I do is I workshop the scripts and the interactions. So I build up these films by coming up with a bullet point script, then working with the actors and generating the actions from within the actors, and that is the way that we get these very, very realistic performances, because they're coming out from the actors. And very often the actors say things that I would never say, have ways of phrasing things that I would never use, but that's great because that's what makes them, the actors. So the director's deliverable and vision must be the final interactive film, not just the video clips. Many interactive films failed because the director just did the video clips and then walked away. But if you are the scriptwriter, in a sense, this is your job. Your deliverable is the final interactive film. You've got to have that vision, because if you don't have it, no one else will get it. If you're writing the script of an interactive film, it's your baby. You are the one who must have a vision of what the final thing will be. So on the shoot, I mean, does any of you, apart from Jocelyn, want to direct?
It's definitely in the for me. Like, it's something I might want to do if it's like if it's a project I'm really passionate about.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
I do, definitely.
Jocelyn and Jacob. Okay, fine. Albert, well, just
No, I don't really want to direct.
Fine. And then the irony. 6 years later, there he was, standing on the stage at the BAFTAs. And we thought, we remember, we didn't want to, anyway. If you're directing an interactive film, you must unconfuse people on the shoot. Everyone gets confused. The director can't get confused. You must know how everything joins together and be able to explain it. So shoot first and third person. Sorry, was it Jacob? Were you talking about the whole question of to what extent do you become the character?
Yeah.
So this is what we've already seen this. I'll just mute it. So here we are. We're third person, all shot complete like a normal film. Okay, first person. So even before we've seen that character, we know that that's me. First person, again, we know that that's me. And so that's what we do all the way through these films, is we're constantly jumping from first person to third person, so that you see through their eyes, so you know that that's you, but also you see them so you can see their emotion. Because if you're just seeing through the eyes, it just becomes boring. Video post-production, this is possibly getting into a little bit too much detail, but very important is when you do the offline, all the choices are mocked up. I might even just show this example. though I will need to just click out and click in. Okay, so here we have, so this is the on offline for real talk. And you see we've mocked up the choices. So at the edit stage, you can see how it's all going to work, how it's all going to hang together. How many of you know how to edit? Jack?
Skills.
Things,
I
yeah.
do.
Nothing like major.
Okay, no, that's fine. I mean, editing is an incredibly useful skill, especially in the current era where we're moving more and more to self-shooting. I don't mean in a suicidal sense, but in terms of people shooting their own stuff. If you can edit your own stuff, it's great. Also, just again, Jacob, just having a look at the third person, first person, third person, third person, first person. Now, actually, though, we took that out in the end because there was a better performance in the third person version. But again, you get the idea. By jumping into first person, we just reinforce the sense that it's you, that you're there, that it's not a sort of classic drama where there's a fourth wall and you're just looking. Okay, so editors and post houses often underestimate time. I mean, I think post houses are kind of on the way out, basically. I mean, their technology is becoming more and more stuff that everyone's got at home. But, but hey, they may still survive. Anyway, so coding and testing, you've got to be able to communicate well with coders. If any of you want to talk about this in more detail, let me know. I realize it's getting a bit off topic for you probably, but coders are very literal. So Albert, you're a mathematician, right? So you should be great at this because
I'm actually really bad at coding.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Well, you don't have to code. I can't code, but you need to be able to communicate with coders clearly. And so the second part of, the documentation that you need to create is a coding script. So this is a choice from a coding script. This is done as a Google Doc. And sorry, it's so laborious to switch from one tab to another, but we just have a quick look at this coding doc. So this is a coding document. So this has got all the choices in, and it's got a little bit of detail so that the coders have some idea of what the hell's going on, because you want them to be able to test bugs themselves to some extent. But there's very, very little detail. Obviously, we've cut out all the stuff about who says what, blah, blah, blah. Jason asks if he's thinking of killing himself. Chris says that's exactly what he's been thinking about. Thinks about it all the time. Boom, goes on to the next bit. What now? Ask if he's got a plan. Try to stop it. Jason asks about Chris's plan. Disarms it. And you see in each case with real talk, we've got the green text. That's the correct answer. Yellow text is a bad but not too bad answer. Suggest going for a walk. Call 111. I mean, they're not terrible, but it's not the right answer. But then we've got other choices, like give him some advice and leave him in peace, which is a terrible answer. The guy's going to kill himself if you do that. Basically, we don't say that quite so explicitly, but that is what's going to happen. Try tough love. Tell him to pull his socks up. So those are sort of disastrous choices. So with the color coding, we indicate the points level. So a green answer gets you +1 points. A red answer gets you -3 points. A yellow answer gets you -1 points. So it's very simple. It's very clear. it tells the coder exactly what they need to know and no more. So that is the sort of thing that ideally you should be able to do for your interactive script. Okay, what sort of software? So I work with a company called Unit 9, and they won Ad Age magazine in New York's Global Production House of the Year prize last year. They do sort of big fancy commercial stuff. I'm sort of their sort of charity arm. Every couple of years, Martin, or more than that, every so often Martin sort of comes along with another sort of do-gooding, sort of save the world type project, and they sort of help out even though there's no money in it. But you know, it's good for them when it wins prizes, and it, you know, so they get something out of it that way. It's a sort of PR value. So they have an in-house video player that I use, but there are other options, something called Wirewax, there's something called Morphcast, and there's something called Echo Studio. Morphcast is interesting because it's not just interactive video from buttons, it can also respond to your expression. So you can trigger an action in a video from people smiling. You can also react to your gender. This is birth gender, not, you know, your assumed gender, and it can react to your age. So if you wanted to write a script which would be different for a 20-year-old, a 40-year-old, and a 60-year-old, Morphcast is the software for you. If anyone wants to do anything like that, please let me know, because Morphcast are sort of hungry for content. And yeah, so if anyone wants to do something like that, or an interaction which is based on a smile, please let me know, because we could have a chat to Morphcast about it. So directors have to help with quality assurance, because the testers don't really know what the fuck is going on. You've got to help them out. Launch. So research, as we discussed before, if you can't measure it, it doesn't exist. So if there's actual formal research on what you've done, that is great. For example, contrasting your approach with a traditional form of teaching or something else. What you really want, what you really love, is a number that shows that what I've done is good compared with the other stuff. Okay, why bother? All right, so in my opinion, online film today is like the dawn of cinema. So what happened in the old days, in the very, very early days of cinema, lots of filmmakers said, well, we know what the cinema thing is. It's a way to distribute theatre and music hall. It's a convenient way to distribute plays and music hall. And that's what most early films were. But some people are trying to make something new now. And there's a filmmaker called W.R. Booth who was doing something similar back in 1897. So there isn't any sound to this film. This is a film called The Human Flies. So at this stage, this is like 90% of early films. So you see, it's a filmed stage set, right? You can imagine that, you know, this is like it's like a theater, and no one's heard of close-ups. No one's heard of anything fancy like that. It's filmed like a filmed play in the most basic way. Okay, but look at what W.R. Booth does next. Oh, sorry, my mistake. Second. Okay, so it's a filmed play. What does he do next? Boom, boom. So what he's done there is he's made the leap, to doing something that you could only possibly do with the new medium. It would be impossible to do that in theatre, and that is why Booth has done it. So for me, that's a great inspiration, that film. And I think that interactive film in 2020 offers something extraordinary and something similar. The chance to do something new and useful with film and video, which no one's ever done before. So the field is really wide open. Now it's up to you. So thank you. That's our kickoff. Please get in touch with me. My Central Film School email isn't working yet. Even once it is, please just get in touch with me at martinpercy.com. It's much easier. I'll respond a lot quicker. I'm looking forward to this course. I hope you get a lot out of it. I do think there's an incredible opportunity for people of your age to be launching out in this space, because the regular film and TV industry is kind of clueless, and they're still running on vapors from the 20th century, and there's a lot that could be done. So thanks very much, guys. Any questions? Fire away. But of course, we're seeing each other. Oh my God, could it be tomorrow morning? Feel free to not ask questions, and we could just pick it up tomorrow.
Cool.
So, anything, or shall we knock it on the head?
No, I think I'm quite content.
Good.
There's a lot of
Jacob's
stuff to
content.
absorb.
Sorry, Jack, I didn't hear that. Go ahead.
I'm set. I'm pretty good.
Okay, fantastic. All right. So, tomorrow, we're going to be 2 teams. And in each team, this is going to be very complicated. No one's done this before, but in a bad way. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to play Heart Class. So Heart Class is normally done for like a class of 30 American high school students. So one thing is you're going to have to take off your bitter, cynical, sort of British student sort of vibe. It's not an indie film. It's for American high school students in Kentucky, okay? They're not ironic. They've never heard of irony, okay? So it's going to be an irony-free zone, all right? I know it's going to be tough, but you can do it. All right, then the other thing that's going to be tough is you're going to need to do CPR. So the way it works is, so we split you into 2 teams. I'm telling you this now because having to handle this at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning would kill me. So we're going to split you into 2 teams, and once the CPR starts, it's going to be hilarious. I have no idea if it's going to work, but we'll give it a go. Once we start doing CPR, one person in each team does the CPR. The other person answers questions. Then you flip over. Not literally flip over. Then you switch over. You take turns, okay? So please work out who is going to be in which team, or I can do it. And we'll need... Are you all on laptops?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jack, can you switch on your camera, please? Do you mind?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we thought you were going to be naked. How disappointing. Okay, so what you'll need is a bit of space so that you can like get down on the floor. I mean, 3 of you can do CPR anyway, so you're way ahead of most audiences. You're going to need to have a bit of space to get down on the floor and just do CPR, just pushing on a blanket or a wrapped up coat or something like that. Yeah. So just try and think about that a little bit in advance so we don't have to think about it at 10. And good luck, because we've never actually done this before. I've never done it with just 4 people. I have no idea what it's going to be like. However, it'll be fine. The key thing, obviously, is that you understand what it's like to be in an interactive film, to be playing an interactive film. Please don't think like scriptwriters. Think like Kentucky teenagers, and you will be in the right space. Okay? Yeah. Okay, so I look forward to it. Any questions, or are we good to go? That's it? No? Fine. Okay, fantastic. Thanks, guys. Send me an email if you want anything, or if you want that presentation, just let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow at 10.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yay. Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.